Hi, my name's Ian Grant. Today we are down in Dixon Transport about to interview Michael Dixon about the origin stories of Dixon and where they started.
I'm going all the way. I'm going, yeah, my blood is rebel. I'm going all the way. I'm going to another level. To another level. To another level.
Mr. Michael Dixon, how are you, sir?
Good.
I suppose I'm here to ask you, how did Dixon International start? Did you start with one truck, or how did it all begin, I suppose?
I suppose it started with my father in the early 70s. He worked for a local farmer, and they had an idea to build a cattle trailer. And with the cattle trailer, we were moving cattle and sugar beet down to the sugar factory in Torles, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And that's gone back to, late 70s, early 80s. And that evolved from that to doing Irish work. I would draw the docks around the country and little bits and pieces like that. Then they started doing a little bit of continental work for a company called TCS in Balbriggan. Which was like, I suppose, like a freight forwarder or whatever.
Yeah.
They started doing, UK and Europe. Him and a brother of his, Tony Dixon. So that was going back in the, early 80s, late 70s, and they evolved from that. My father grew the business to 6 or 7 trucks.
Was it quick to going from drawing sugar beet and drawing the cattle to just going,
well, I was
throw
only,
away
I
this?
was very small, like late 70s. I was only 5 or 6 years old, you
Yeah.
know, and
It says you they kept
yeah.
the PG stories to themselves.
yeah. So like it was sort of, I just seen trucks, and there was a couple of Hinos and a Volvo F88. It was very, older equipment and older trailers, and having to maintain stuff and keep them going.
Yeah.
But they evolved, and then I suppose the first new trucks that came into the place was Ivecos, and father had 5 new Ivecos from 84 to 88.
Sorry, what was the name of those Ivecos, Michael?
They were Iveco 190/38 turbos, and I think there might have been a 190/30 as well. The 190/30 was a 6-cylinder engine, and the 38s were a V8, 17-litre V8. So they were a good truck in their day, and that was he had a couple of them in 86, and he got 2 new ones in 88, but he died in 88 from cancer. He was in
God rest him.
yeah, he was only 36 when he died, but he went to Germany for a meeting, and when he was parked outside the place, he decided he'd go out in the truck to meet a customer. And when he parked outside the warehouse that night, the diesel froze and his heating stopped working on the truck, and he got frostbite on the side of his neck.
Yes.
And the frostbite developed into cancer, and 2 years later he
Oh my
died of
God.
cancer. So you could say the transport killed him.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, but that was in 88. I was only 14 years old.
Men were so hardy back then, though, weren't they? They'd still sleep in it if they had to. 'Cause they
Yeah,
had no choice.
I suppose there was no, it's not like it is today anyway,
Yeah.
the equipment. But he was probably in a new truck at the time, and there was an eye here in it.
Yeah.
But the diesel froze and the eye here stopped.
Oh God.
Yeah, so that'll give you tell you the temperature, what it was like in Germany at that
Yeah.
time. But so my mother sold the business, or sold the trucks off over the next year or so. And there was a big gap. I was only 14, still at school.
Yeah, I was going to say you were fairly young, so it would have been out of your agenda for a little while anyway.
Oh yeah, the seed was well planted. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose I left school. I probably railroaded my mother a little bit. Left school at junior cert, which was the intercert at the time, and took an apprenticeship doing diesel mechanic for a couple of years. Didn't finish it, and then went sort of working with farming, and I worked in a company called Techrete for a long time, driving forklifts and stuff like that until I got my truck license. But I always knew that's what I wanted to try and do, was to do for some form of transport.
Yeah, the other stuff was just filling the gap until you were old enough to
Yeah,
get the
so
license.
I got the license when I was 18, and I probably started driving somewhere between 18 and just turning 19 for an uncle of mine, and Tony Dixon. And so
Tony's still on the go today, isn't he?
yeah, he's still on the go
yeah.
today. He works with his son, doing van work and stuff like that, and the Arctics as well. But yeah, so I worked with Tony. First truck I drove for Tony was my father's old 19038 Iveco. So I drove that for probably 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years, up and down to Italy. Very first trip I done was to Italy.
Deadly.
What
What was it like back then heading out? Like, was it were you full of dreams, ambitions, and I was like thinking, I can't wait to get out to the continent?
Yeah, I think everybody thinks that when you're going to Europe and driving through all these countries, it feels like
It's an adventure. That's what it feels.
feels like an adventure, yeah. And eventually, when you do so much of it, it's like everything, every work. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I always liked the aspect of, you know, sort of being your own boss, even though you were working for somebody. You know, you chose where you went to each day and where you stopped every night, and you know what way you tackled the load you were on, and stuff like that. And the continent is not much different today than it was then. Like, you know, the infrastructure was super in Europe. I'd say that there's not a lot changed if I went back to all the places I was in. But I spent 4 years going up and down to Italy every week, and that was probably the biggest difference back then. Compliance, you know, wasn't as strong, if you know what I mean. So you maybe didn't have to take, you know, there's no 45-hour breaks. You might have 24s maybe while you were down in Italy, but you still got to go to Italy every week. You back to Holyhead at the weekend and back down to Italy midweek the following week. So it was, I wouldn't say we were doing anything wrong, but compliance definitely wasn't as strong, if you know what I mean. So done that for 4 years, and I bought my own truck in '98. A brand new Volvo from not from Irish Commercials, from McDonald Commercials in Monaghan. It was a 420 FH Globetrotter XL. Yeah. And it was, what was it, 80 or 98 MH 2051. It was the first truck, and I started.
Good choice, by the way.
Yeah, it was and it was a good truck, but
you don't want to buy another one, do you?
Yeah. It was. I tried to source that one back, and I missed it. It went for export to Africa. I just missed it by a couple of days. A&M had it a number of years ago. Yeah. And someone told me about it. When I rang A&M, it just had exported it. So I'd missed it. Like, so, but so it's out in Africa somewhere, parked in the hedge somewhere. So, but yeah. So bought the first truck and started pulling trailers for McGardles.
Was it as difficult to buy a new truck back then? Like, you know, well, I suppose it's not really that difficult now, but was there such a big process to jump into a brand new truck at the time, or did it seem easier back then?
I'd say it's as easy as it is today. Like finance, Lombard and Ulster gave me my first finance on the first truck, and I'd saved up a good few pounds because I was single doing Italy every week for 4 years. Yeah. And it wasn't I was any good at saving money. It was just
hadn't time to spend it.
I hadn't time to spend it. Yeah. So I had a few pounds put aside to start the business, and when that flowed the truck while you know you were waiting on money to come in, and that was the key. You know, so having that ability to have the few quid saved that you were able to pay for diesel and that until you got paid first. But yeah, no, I found it okay to borrow for the first truck. Finance is probably as available as it was today. Yeah, if you know what I mean. Like, and yeah, and it was very positive. Drove it for myself for the first 12 months, and then bought another truck. I bought a Scania 143 450 off Smith Brothers in Liverpool. No. And it was 96, so it was probably 3 years old when I bought it. I probably had the Volvo a year and then bought the second truck. And on from there, you know, we started pulling trailers for McGardles and for my uncle Tony Dixon, which would have been working for a company called Unifreight at the time. And Unifreight became Kuhn and Nagel as we know it today in Ireland. So, yeah, we've done a little bit of work with them and grew from that point on.
Brilliant. And then, so you went from 1 truck to 2 trucks, and then how did you turn 2 trucks into 300 trucks from there?
Yeah, so listen, we had a huge growth.
Like at that time, had you even a base or anything like that, or were you?
So my from a base point of view, when it started out first with 1 truck, I was using my uncle Tony's yard. When you did come home, you wouldn't be home that often.
Yeah.
And it was just 1 tractor unit, so it wasn't an issue. But my father had an old yard in the home place, and we sort of adopted that, and there was a workshop there that he had built in the 70s. Him and his brothers put it up, and it was used for his business when as it evolved. So we adopted to that and started using that yard. I built a house next door in I think 97, 95, 96, and 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And we used the yard and workshop there for many years. But every year we at least doubled in size, at least.
Just kept growing and growing.
Kept growing. It was easy, I suppose, with the small numbers going to, from 2 to 4, 4 to 8.
Yeah.
8. But every year, and if we had customers that needed extra work done, we'd just go and source extra equipment.
Yeah.
And go from that. And we'd very good driver support, and a lot of them guys, are still around us today.
Yeah.
From the early days.
Yeah.
Every year we doubled in size, if not more. You know, and as that mushroomed through, there was many years that, we felt that the business is hard, and I wish I didn't do it. You know what I mean? So, it definitely had huge growth, and it was all around in the transport side.
Yeah. Were you ever afraid of taking the risk about going further again? Did you ever stand back and go, oh, I don't know if this is for me?
There was many times where we would have hung up the boots, I was sort of say, I'd love to be just working for somebody and not having the hassle of cash flow and making sure that we always had, enough cash flow to run the business.
Yeah.
It's a very tough business cash flow wise.
Yeah.
So as you grow your business, it eats cash, and your money is sitting in somebody else's.
Yeah. And since you're not getting same day pay either, you could be waiting a while to get, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And credit terms varied from 30 to 60 to 90 days, depending on the customers. And managing that throughout that was probably the hardest individual thing in the business throughout the 30 years that we're in business.
Is your cash flow?
Yeah, cash flow. And once you focused on getting that right and growing with that there was probably times that we outgrew cash flow, as in where it left it painful for us.
Yeah.
And we learned probably to control that as we went along.
Yeah.
First 10 years was definitely a lot of learning.
But what would you say your first probably trying to save was right, we need to start doing a bit more work internally, as in maintenance and stuff like that? Because I remember when you took on the Swords yard originally, I remember you just had a workshop and stuff like that there, and that was not new at the time, but it was progression in transport, because a lot of people wouldn't have had their own workshop and stuff back in the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and we would have always, because I was sort of hands-on that way, as in.
You were diesel trained.
Yeah, I'd done a couple of years, as an apprentice, but probably been around the equipment, learned me more than the couple of years. So I definitely wouldn't call myself a mechanic, but I totally understand everything a mechanic tells you, or what has to be done with a truck.
Yeah.
So
you've been on the other end of a phone when there's a man in Italy and there's something wrong with the truck. 100%.
Or been in the yard on a Sunday when something needs to be done. So it's really it comes hand in glove with the business.
Yeah.
You have to be hands on. Yourself from that situation. You need to be willing to get your hands dirty. But and I have no issue with that. it was a positive to have that knowledge. My father was the same. He would have been as good as a mechanic as well, and wasn't a mechanic. You know,
Yeah,
he's jack of all trades. You know.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where you had to be, whether you liked it or not. Yeah.
And it was the only way you seen that you could probably afford to do the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the margins are tight enough in this game too.
It's incredible, but every business is the same. You're delusional to think that there's greener fields next door.
No, there isn't.
Every business has competition, and it's up to you to try and make your business as efficient as it needs to be to have a margin, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so. and even says you can have a massive margin, like even on a product or a service, let's just say, but there'll be utilities, there'll be stock, there'll be something. There's always something else. Like
absolutely,
yeah. It's not as straightforward as it seems.
Never is straightforward, no. But yeah, so we would have. That was in County Meath, so just the other side of Ashbourne, between Ashbourne and Slane, where the home base is. Still is there today.
Yeah.
So we would have ran probably as far as 30 trucks.
Out of that base.
Out of County Meath, and then we made in around 98, we made the decision to we'd outgrown beside the house in County Meath. We'd outgrown the site, and we decided we rented a place in Knoll, County Dublin. So it was our first pointing, I suppose you could say, towards Dublin, and we went to Knoll, and it was an old helicopter warehouse, big concrete yard. We put in our first automatic truck wash into it. We converted with 2 stores and a workshop. Now we basically done cross docking in the stores, and we done all our maintenance there, and we had a brand new Istabel truck wash, which was a big step up for a 30 truck operation.
Yeah.
And that was in around 98. That was around the time that this Celtic Tiger recession came in. Yeah. And we managed to manage the business quite well during that. During the Celtic Tiger bust.
This was 2008, was it?
Or 2008, sorry. 2008.
Yeah.
98 was when we started. So this is 10 years. So we spent the first 10 years in County Meath.
Yeah.
And in 2008, the bust came in from the Celtic Tiger, all the property, the banks, everything. And that was the biggest issue we had then, was the availability of credit and finance.
Yeah. It zeroed everything for a while, didn't it? Everything just
there was no finance available for buying trucks. Banks had their doors shut across the board because they got so burnt with property.
Yeah.
And so for a number of years, that was the biggest obstacle we had was getting the support that we needed from finance companies and banks. And that wasn't just us, that was across the board.
Yeah.
So at that time,
it was nearly impossible to grow in those couple of years, I'd imagine.
But there was no manufacturer finance in Ireland at that time.
Yeah.
So there was no Scania finance, no Volvo finance, it was solely down to AIB and BOI.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Both of them banks got heavily burnt with property and had closed the doors to doing business. Not to us, it was just in their
whole
own
country.
issues.
Yeah.
So, so for them, a few years, our fleet aged a touch, but we managed to run the business quite well and make it more efficient.
I'd say I learned a lot during those times, like just on how to manage things and things going forward.
It changed the view completely because things got so tight. We had to focus on efficiencies. Instead of getting extra money, we needed to save money.
Yeah.
So we looked at.
I imagine you need to focus more and make sure that customers are going to pay, because it was a rough time for everybody at
Absolutely,
that time. Yeah.
And that was critical. And funny enough, in the 30 years we've been in business, we've had very little bad debt.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so,
great to hear.
And so whether that's us managing it or just the quality customer is just much better today.
Yeah.
But we would have, in that during 2008, 2009, 2010, probably didn't buy any new trucks in 2009. 2010, we done a deal with Volvo and took 2 new Volvos with an arrangement with Volvo on a financial agreement. And that was a change in time in our business. I was in Cheltenham with Volvo on a trip out, and I met the head guy in Volvo UK, and he explained to me about air resistance, speed, tires, and efficiency about to save money.
Was this ever talked about prior to this? It wasn't really a thing that was brought up much, was it? No?
I got onto the bus in Cheltenham with 10 guys from Volvo. I sat down the back and happened to just sit beside the head guy. Jorn was his name. And I asked him, I was more punting that I needed cheaper trucks to save money, to save a few pound. And he says, I can tell you how to save money, but you won't like it. And that's exactly the words. And I remember them words because it changed our business.
Yeah.
And he says, if you stick your hand out the window at 90 kilometers an hour, there's enormous air resistance. But he says, if you reduce to 85, it's dramatically different. And he says, the difference between 85 and 80 is not so big.
Yeah.
The big difference is between 90 and 85. And I said, right, yeah, listen to, and he says, if you focus on the tyre and the application of the tyre and then driver train, them 3 things will give you 20 to 30% saving in your fleet.
Yeah.
And
which is massive.
Which is enormous. And yeah, of course we knew driver training and stuff like that. So I went home, we had 2 brand new Volvos only arrived. We set the 2 of them to 85 as a test. And without looking at tyres, we started then a trial with Continental, Bridgestone and Michelin. And that trial on tyres took us 7 to 9 months. But when we set the trucks back to 85 for the first time from 90, on the Volvos, we achieved 17% fuel saving, right? And in driver training, talking to the drivers about more cruise control, anticipation, anticipation and harsh braking. Them 3 items alone is gives you all the training you need, if you know what I mean. And so our fleet, over the next 7 or 8 months, we tested tyres. Michelin came out 7% ahead on a long distance, low rolling resistance tyre. And so a combination of tyres, spec in the trucks, speed, driver training, our fleet changed from 36 litres per 100 kilometres to our average across 300 trucks today is 24.5 litres per 100 kilometres.
That's huge.
So we're 12 litres better off today because of the conversation we had in the bus. I'm not saying that we wouldn't have looked at that in the future, but that was the point of where I learned about focusing on efficiency. And to this day, I believe that you have to be consistently willing to change your model in order to get the best from the fleet.
Yeah. Did that affect you in any other way with regards to timing and stuff like that?
We looked at it many ways. Now the drivers will tell you, you'll always miss boats, whether you do 90 kilometres or 85 or 80 kilometres.
Yeah.
You'll always miss boats, right?
It's
so
transparent.
anytime anyone misses anything, if I had been doing 90, I would have got it.
Yeah.
But we looked at it and we actually gained utilisation on the tracking system versus 90 kilometres, because we found that every truck on the road at that time was doing 90 kilometres. So you get a lot of yo-yoing.
Yeah.
So you think of it, and you're in the UK and it's hectic traffic. You're yo-yoing from 90 down to 85 to 90. Whereas we were more, everyone was passing us, but we were very consistent.
Yeah, you were solid 85 most of the time. Yeah.
Our average utilisation actually crept up a touch. So we knew we lost nothing. The drivers obviously would have thought that they were losing something.
Yeah.
But it's been...
It's all a mental thing, because they see people passing. Yeah, they're like, I would have been there. Yeah.
And now I think the odd trucks on the road today are probably the ones doing 90. Do you know what I mean? Like, so most fleets are running a lower speed for efficiency. And it's hard to convince people that that's the way to do. And there is some applications that it does deserve 90 if you can only make a place in X amount of time or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's very rare that that is the case, you
Yeah.
know. So, but yeah, so that was the biggest swing in efficiency in the business.
Is that when 2013 came in and I remember you bought a heap of Volvos all at one time, and it was like one
Yeah,
of
it probably led from that conversation because
Yeah.
2010 we had 2 6x2s that came, and at that point it was very difficult to raise finance because of the bank situation
Yeah.
in Ireland, and so yeah, so we the next opportunity 2000 yeah 13 yeah 131s
yeah.
that
I know,
was the
'cause
first big
we
batch.
bought one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was probably we were still in the recession. That was a big amount of trucks for somebody to buy.
Absolutely.
I don't know, was it 20 trucks or whatever?
Even in 2013, I was just finished school in 2013 and couldn't get a job anywhere at the time. Nowhere. And even like you can imagine now how many industries are crying out for young people.
Yeah.
Nowhere. I mean nowhere. You couldn't even get a job packing shelves for 2 hours a day.
It was definitely, the focus was on something like we had a full house of drivers for sure and a full house of office. The focus was on trying to survive, I suppose, in them periods. But from 13 to 14, it definitely got a lot better. And then the manufacturer finances came in as well.
Yeah.
So we were on the Volvo road till 2016. It was the last batch of new Volvos that we bought. 2017, we bought 30 new Scanias.
That's right, yeah.
And that was the reason for that was no other reason, only it was down to the brand efficiency. So Volvos were a super truck, but they were a little bit heavier on diesel, and we found that after testing the Scanias that they were maybe 10% better on fuel. So it made a big difference to us. So we changed the Scania in 2017. 2018, we had bought another 30 Scanias, and I think probably bought Scanias, nearly all the way after that until the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So and for some reason, Volvo and Scania are reasonably close on efficiency at the moment. And we've 60 new DAFs that we bought in...
That was 2 years ago now.
2 years ago now, yeah. And the efficiency, the DAF is super fuel-wise as well. So the 3 trucks are very competitive.
So you were in the Nall, but you weren't in the Nall for very long, and then you made the move for Dublin then, or as a lot of transport people would know, Meadows old base in Swords on the bypass in Swords.
Yeah, we
Was that a big leap for you then at the time, or were you were gone up again and it was more of a scale thing? You're like, I need more room for this.
Yeah, the biggest location thing for us was the move to Dublin. So in 2008 we moved to Nall. We spent 1.5 years in Nall, and which was a little bit still County Dublin, but it was a little bit off the beaten path. It was probably 10 minutes off the M1. So the opportunity came up to take the...
Did the M1 even stretch as far as Drogheda then at that point?
Oh, absolutely.
Did
yeah.
it? Yeah.
Went as far as Belfast, yeah. So this is only 2008, like, so it was there, and 2009, 2009, late 2009, 2010, we had the opportunity to take the old DHL stroke Meadows facility in Swords, and which we done the deal, and we moved in late 2009, 2010, and that changed our business because we then became a Dublin-based transport business, and we had 12 loading ramps, warehouse facility, good garage facility, truck wash, and 5 or 6, 7 acres of parking.
Yeah.
And super location, just off the dual carriageway, off the M1.
Yeah. 5 10 minutes from the airport as well, says you.
Yeah, 5 minutes from the airport, 10 minutes from the port. Very, very good to us. And so we spent probably 10 years in Swords, growing the business. Huge growth while we were in Swords. And then we always had our eye on developing our own place.
So you were going from Meadows, the old Meadows yard that you had built up, and you're after growing into that. And then what made you go, I'm going to buy a field and build my own warehouse? Was it terrifying to do at the time, or was it just let's build a warehouse?
I suppose we all want to try and own our own. We were renting in Swords, and we all want to own our own facility at some point. And we could never, even at that point, we probably had close on 100 trucks. And it was very difficult to see how you could have, enough free cash flow or money to plunge into the commercial property in Dublin. But we done a deal with Keelings and Food Central, and we bought a 7-acre site, 7 to 10 acres, and we developed it. Initially putting 20,000 square foot of warehouse on it, a big workshop, new truck wash, and parking for fleet. 2016 we moved into that site, so we probably done the deal in 2015. And it's been an extremely positive move ever since. So
You don't regret that one anyway?
No, we moved in with 20,000 square foot of warehouse. That site now has 110,000 square foot of warehouse. We extended it by another 4 or 5 acres that we bought beside it off Keelings Food Central.
That was just for your parking, wasn't it?
Parking and warehouse, yeah. And the warehouse sort of complemented the business. Transport is the biggest part of the business, but the warehouse definitely goes hand in glove with the transport. So it sort of evolved. We extended that 4 times on that site, and it was a very positive part of the business. It became a very positive part of the business.
Yeah. And then you went from there to this new site that we're in today.
Yeah.
And then as I'm looking out the window, there's a new potential site going up.
Yeah, and I suppose, listen, we've done a deal with Keelings Food Central for another 25 acres. And so we developed 16 acres of it in 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago. And that opened just over 12 months ago. 46,000 pallet spaces, and fully automated Moffat system in it, which has worked out very well. More parking, a new truck wash, a new trailer wash, 800 kilowatts of solar on the roof. So as we speak now, we're off grid. We're running on solar, so it was a very, very positive add-on to the business. And during that, our site still had 7 or 8 acres to develop. So we've another 110,000 square foot of warehouse been built as we speak, to be finished for Q3 2026.
Amazing.
That'll give us, we've 46,000 pallets here in the one we're sitting in. The one next door will have 25,000 pallets, and we've 20,000 pallets in the original site. So give us a holding of about 80,000 pallets.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's been a positive. Food Central has been very positive for the business, close to the port, close to the airport for drivers, close to most of our customers. So it's worked out well for Dixon.
Absolutely, yeah, it's an ideal site, especially in Dublin, because it's very hard at the moment to get property in Dublin. And your proximity to all the major ports and inland ports, the M50 ring road, it's a great location, this place. Yeah,
it's worked out well for us, and onward and upward with it, because it's expanded quite well, Food Central, over the last 10 years since we've got here. Like we were probably, us and Donnelly's were the only ones in here. Now we have multiple companies in here.
So keep up to date with us on the Dixon International story. There will be another episode coming out very, very shortly. We'd like to thank you very much for watching. And Michael, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I'm going